Hello, my name is Kai and I am the host of the Atla system. Today I wanted to just go straight in there and talk about something that I feel like a lot of people haven't touched upon. Like, I know there are countless videos out there now on dissociative identity disorder, although perhaps not as many as there could be. So obviously I am taking my time to contribute to that. But something that I feel has not been touched on all that much is about OSDD and how in some ways it can be a lot more difficult to get your head around in terms of actually having the disorder and treating the disorder. So a bit of background information about our system. There are 4 of us, including me, which I feel is kind of small in comparison to a lot of systems out there. But you know, everyone's different, so that's just how it is. There's me, Kai, and then there's Els, who used to be the host, Sammy, who's a little, and Emily, who is more of a protector kind of role. See, we're still working ourselves out, which is partly why I'm making this video. We have OSDD, which is very similar to dissociative identity disorder, DID, but we don't get amnesia in between switches. There is also another subtype of OSDD, which is when there are different parts, but they are not very differentiated. But I'm not the one to talk about that in depth because I don't have it. So yeah, obviously this is all my own experience, so I can't say that it will necessarily apply to other systems. But yeah, here goes. So I wanted to talk about how difficult it can be to actually realize that you have the disorder when there are a lot less of the common symptoms, such as obviously amnesia. So in the case of my system, we had a lot of confusion. Well, or I, being that probably all of us, had a lot of confusion about who we were, and not necessarily thinking that it was because we had different personalities all in one body, but more because obviously we all remembered what each other did whilst we were out. So I ended up thinking that perhaps I was just a very contradictive person. Like, 2 of the big things that really confused 3 of us, but not so much Sammy because she's about 6, so I don't think it really concerned her, but mainly sexuality and gender is what was the most confusing, I think, because for all of us it's different. I'm the only guy and the other 3 are girls. Obviously that caused confusion when we thought that we were single as in one person, not not in a relationship. But I'm not single, by the way, sorry, I'm taken. So yeah, in terms of sexuality, it was very confusing because I was always like jumping back and forth between practically every sexuality, not being able to decide on one because our opinion kept changing all the time, and what was actually happening was that we were switching and then each person had their own orientation. So for example, I'm gay and Els is bisexual and Emily is also gay, so we've got the full spectrum going there. And throughout our lives we have had crushes on obviously people of all genders. So I'm like, as a singlet I had decided on pansexual, but then I kept being really confused because we kept having all of these different opinions and just lots of conflicting emotions about someone that we had a crush on. Like, we would go from having a crush on someone to them being like, no, why? And then go back to suddenly liking them again, which made me think that I was, I don't know, somewhat indecisive or something. But obviously that was just me remembering what other people had been sort of thinking, and I think it took us realizing that we had OSDD for me to realize that we all had set sexualities and that it wasn't all over the place like I thought. And in terms of sexual attraction, we would go from being really, really attracted to someone and then being absolutely repulsed by any idea of sex whatsoever. So that made me really confused about myself as well. And honestly, it was only after doing a lot of research as into what was wrong with me, because I at least knew that we had PTSD, but that's it. I thought we had PTSD and dissociation, and that was sort of it. And then I realized that the times where I didn't feel quite so in control of myself were the times that my personality had suddenly done a 360 and turned into something completely different. Because I always thought, when people say things like, when I'm around different people, my personality changes, etc., etc., I thought that what I was doing was just sort of like that, I thought I was just changing my personality to fit the situation, subconsciously. And then I realized that that wasn't quite what was going on. Because we all have very different ways of thinking and different opinions. And once I found out about DID and OSDD, then it started to make sense that I wasn't just doing the normal things that all these other people do. Like, I would write off my inner world as just sort of daydreaming and, imagining things like everyone else does. My sudden personality changes were just like, I have lots of mood swings. And with the sexuality changes, I'm like, sexuality is fluid, gender is fluid. I thought that these were normal things. I mean, obviously they are normal things, but I think they are things which can be misinterpreted to someone who has a disorder, and they will think that what they're experiencing is normal, but it's actually part of their disorder. And, everyone wants to think that there's nothing wrong with them because life is easier that way. But then also, once you've figured something out, then you can work on adapting to life with that. So I think after accepting that, we have come to understand ourselves a lot more and become, in some ways, more cohesive as a person, because when we have to pretend that we're one person, then we know what other people in the system think, so we can sort of compromise a bit to pretend that we are one. And it's kind of tough sometimes, because I would think that I was being two-faced or kept on lying about myself, because the things that I thought were true facts about myself, then I would say something differently. But it wasn't me saying it technically. Like, I was there, I could tell it was going on, but it wasn't me doing it. It's one of the others. Yeah, I guess to anyone else out there who's experienced this, I would like to know what kind of problems you've had to overcome in relation to what was I saying? Work yourself out, there we go. If anyone is interested, then I don't mind introducing the system better, but I'm not doing this all too seriously. I just thought that it was something important to say, because I feel like there might be a lot of people out there who are beating themselves up about not being right as a person, but also not knowing why they're like that. So if there are other systems with experiences, please do tell me and leave a comment or whatever. I mean, another big sign, or something that also made me feel very confused about myself, was the fact that friends and teachers in school reports and my parents, they would all say very different things about who I was as a person. Like, some people would say that I'm kind, other people would say that I'm inconsiderate, and then some people would say I'm very calm, and then other people would say that I'm, too talkable, too loud, and then I'm just very confused about who I actually was. And it was such a big relief to know that we weren't just this mess of a person, and that there was a reason for us being that way, and it wasn't us being an ingenuine person. So I wanted to bring a bit of awareness to that. Yeah, that's about it. So I will see you. Bye bye.